Hey book nerds. It can be hard to make something as frivolous as YouTube videos when there's really terrible things going on in the world. And I like to think that it can help uplift people to do something fun and sometimes silly and maybe frivolous. But it can be really hard to put something up without any real meaning on the internet, knowing there's so many terrible things going on, and that's something I've been thinking a lot about lately, with the victims of Hurricane Maria not getting the help they need, and it seems wrong to use whatever bandwidth someone like me has on the internet, social media-wise, and popularity-wise, to furthering your own channels and social media reach, when theoretically you could be doing something to help bring awareness to a topic that really needs to have more awareness brought to it. J.D. Estrada, who is from Puerto Rico, he's currently living in America, but his family is still in Puerto Rico, and as someone who follows him on various social media outlets, I've been given, through him, a really thorough and disturbing account of what's going on in Puerto Rico, and of the help that they aren't getting and should be getting, while the people who could be helping them are concentrating on really meaningless things instead. So JD has managed to create a Hurricane Maria tag to help bring some awareness to the plight of Puerto Rico and what's going on there right now. And I thought that the least I could do was help promote that tag and help get it going around the internet, and hopefully if all the people that follow me and all the people that follow JD and all the people that follow Kim here, that they see this tag floating around from all these sources in their subscriptions feed. Maybe we can do with this tag some good by making more people aware of what's going on in Puerto Rico. I will link to JD's original video, which is also a heartfelt plea for help, and JD is offering all kinds of giveaways and free books and anything he can to anyone who's helping get the word out and anyone who's donating. So I'll link to his video, and I think you should definitely watch that, and you should definitely check out JD's Twitter account. You can get lots of information about what's going on and what you can do to help. And so I'm going to answer these Hurricane Maria themed questions, and hopefully it's reasonably entertaining, as well as something that makes people realize that Puerto Rico is a place and the Puerto Ricans are people that we need to have in our thoughts right now. So question 1, devastation. What setting has been the most disturbing in a book or movie in terms of desolation? My answer for that is Zero Repeat Forever, a book I read recently to do a review on. And what's really disturbing about the desolation left in the wake of an alien invasion in that book is the weapons the aliens use perfectly sort of mummifies the remains. It's almost like a cryogenic freezing instantly when they kill a human, and then they just leave the bodies where they lay. So the entire world is basically empty of people except for the few survivors, and amidst all that desolation and emptiness are still the bodies of everyone's loved ones, perfectly preserved, never aging, never decaying, just as a monument to everything everyone's lost. And I think that would make the desolation a lot harder to bear. Question 2. Home is gone. What ruins in a movie or book have torn you? The Hatra ruins in Iraq, which you see in the original Exorcist film and also in the prequel called Dominion that came out many years later. They are a monument to ancient civilizations that lived in the area for thousands of years, but they don't exist today because that area has been taken over by ISIS, and they regard ancient ruins as an affront to their religious beliefs. So that area in northern Iraq is completely taken over by ISIS now, and although we can't get in to see it, it's a safe bet that all those ruins are long destroyed. So if you watch the opening sequence of The Exorcist, you kind of know that that whole area and all those ruins and all that archaeological dig in that area and all that is just, it's not there anymore. Question 3. Loss. What book or movie has left you with the most profound sense of loss within? For me, it was watching Schindler's List as a young man. I think over the years I've certainly become much more desensitized to horrible things, including violence and murder and things I see on the TV screen or read in books. But I was still quite young when I saw Schindler's List, and I was not prepared for what I saw, and some of the scenes of just violence and murder against women and children, huge masses of people dying in concentration camps, it was like nothing I'd ever seen before, and it really left me with just felt like a hole in my stomach that didn't go away for a long time. So that was probably the most emotionally impactful movie I've ever seen. Indifference. What people have seemed the most cruelly indifferent in terms of the suffering of people? I'd have to say the people of the capital in the Hunger Games. That is a civilization that is able to completely disassociate itself from the lower caste in that society. And they're able to think of them not even as people, making their children fight to the death for entertainment. It's something that when you really think about it in terms of our society and something we could do, it's a society that is governed by sociopaths and populated by a people who are completely indifferent to the suffering of others. And what's scary about that is when you look at many of the countries in the world today, they are absolutely governed by the same type of sociopath who are incapable of empathy. And the people in some of these countries are literally the same as the population of the capital. And the things that aren't affecting them personally, they just don't bother them. And I think it's bad enough that when we see the suffering of others, we often do nothing to help them. But to be in a position where you literally don't even feel anything for them, I think that's a scary place for society to get to. And I think we're well on our way there now. Desperation. What character has been in the most desperate of situations? I recently saw a film called The Bad Batch, and it takes place in a semi-dystopian future where the desert area of Texas is basically one giant penal colony and no longer part of the states. And so the movie follows a young girl named Arlen who is, for whatever her crime was, she is abandoned into this area which has no laws or oversight or supervision. It is just criminals running free and doing whatever they want. And so within the first 5 minutes of the film, and you can imagine there's not a lot of food and water in that desert area because they aren't given anything from the outside and there's not a lot that can grow in there. So within the first 5 minutes, Arlen is captured and has her right arm and leg amputated by cannibals. And so the rest of the movie, it follows Arlen as she tries to survive in an already horrendous and almost impossible to survive in situation, but also she is missing her arm and her leg. So it's quite an adventure, to say the least. But I would say that her being in that situation and immediately losing an arm and a leg and then having to defend herself, I would say that qualifies as pretty much as desperate as a situation can get. Cavalry. What rescue mission or cavalry gave you hope that victory would be there? The one I think of is the rebels arriving at the end of Catching Fire. It's a situation that had just gone from bad to worse and didn't appear to have any possible positive resolution. And it was kind of unexpected, too, even though you knew something about the rebels. You didn't really know they were in a position to come in and save the day. Not that I really like that book. I talk a lot about the Hunger Games books on this channel, even though I absolutely hate 67% of that series. Question 7. Hello again. What book or movie scene has someone come back from the darkness and filled you with joy? That would definitely have to be The Return of Gandalf as Gandalf the White. Unfortunately, I already knew that that was going to happen before I read the book, or before I saw the movie. But it didn't lose all of its... The scene didn't lose any of its power, knowing it was eventually going to happen. Seeing him come back and seeing the characters respond to his return was a really powerful moment in the books and in the movies. Question 8. Reunion. What family reunion has made you cry the most in a book or movie? The one that immediately comes to mind is Todd and Benison in The Knife of Never Letting Go by Patrick Ness. Todd spends most of that movie having lost something or everything, and that includes his family. So when he finally meets up with Ben, who had been like one of two fathers to him, it's a really powerful moment. And for the reader who also thought Ben was dead, it was really great to see that there was something for Todd, that Todd hadn't lost everything after all. Though, if you've read the books, you know things just go bad again in like 5 seconds, because that's a really downer of a book. Question 9. Rebuild. What are tales of rebuilding that inspire you? For me, the tales that really inspire me are of people rebuilding, and not necessarily rebuilding buildings or infrastructure or that sort of thing. But another book I recently reviewed, Young Jane Young, the character of Aviva loses pretty much every aspect of her life as she knew it. And the book is about what happens and how she rebuilds her life pretty much from scratch and makes a new life and a family. And I think that's a really powerful kind of rebuilding. And I think that rebuilding buildings and stuff is important too, but there's a lot more to rebuilding your life after a tragedy than just the walls, though you certainly need those too if you're going to live. So that was my Hurricane Maria tag. Again, I urge you to go down to the description and check out JD's video and all the information he's been putting out there, and don't trust the mainstream news to do it, because they are not talking about Puerto Rico. So I guess it's down to us to keep talking about it, so that people understand that it's not a situation that's going away. It's a situation and a tragedy that's still unfolding. So even if you can't give money or give food and water or give your time, I would say the very least any of us can do is to keep talking about it, so that the people who are making decisions, the people in power, don't forget what's going on. So keep talking about Puerto Rico. Alright, thanks for watching. Love and respect. See you next time.